So I couldn't leave because there was this kind of weird visa anomaly in my passport. So I was trapped. I was brutal. And I'm like, you know, it was this overnight. I, you know, lost my friends, my wife, my home.
Anstead, the charismatic mechanic who won fans worldwide on Wheeler Dealers, seemed destined for long-term success on the hit show. But then, without warning, he was suddenly gone, leaving viewers shocked and full of questions. Rumors swirled about behind-the-scenes drama, personal struggles, and career-changing decisions that no one saw coming. So, what really happened to Ant? And why did he walk away from a show that made him a household name? The truth is far more surprising, emotional, and revealing than anyone imagined. Ant Anstead's dream crashes. Ant Anstead, best known to many television fans as a charismatic host and skilled car builder, is facing one of the toughest professional challenges of his career. His luxury car company, Radford Motors, has officially entered Chapter 7 bankruptcy following a decisive court ruling on Thursday, May 8th. This significant move was confirmed in documents obtained from Delaware's bankruptcy court, which shed new light on the troubled state of the once ambitious automotive venture. Until now, Radford had been operating under Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, a process it entered back in October 2024. Chapter 11 typically allows a company to restructure its debts, reorganize operations, and attempt to regain stability while still keeping the business alive. However, the recent ruling marks a shift from reorganization to liquidation. By converting the case to Chapter 7, the court has essentially acknowledged that Radford's legal and financial troubles are too steep for recovery under its current model, and liquidation is necessary to grant relief. In simpler terms, Chapter 7 bankruptcy often signals the end of the road for a business. Assets are sold off to pay creditors, and operations frequently come to a close. Yet, in Radford's case, there is still an air of uncertainty. While liquidation is a strong indicator that the company may shut down, there has been no official announcement confirming a complete halt of its operations. This lingering question only adds to the intrigue surrounding Radford's already complicated story. The challenges do not end with the bankruptcy ruling. On April 4th, an additional complaint was filed against the company, once again raising eyebrows. This document alleged that Radford continued to occupy its Costa Mesa, California headquarters despite the termination of its lease agreement. The landlord, frustrated with what was described as an unlawful occupation, sought the court's intervention to begin the eviction process. Such a dispute paints a troubling picture of a company not only grappling with financial collapse but also with serious operational and legal conflicts on multiple fronts. The downward spiral, however, did not begin overnight. Radford first filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy on October 22, 2024, at a time when Anstead was already facing a wave of lawsuits that questioned his business dealings. Among the most striking was a civil complaint lodged on March 8, 2024, in Orange County Superior Court by their former business partner, Pastor Pat Velasco. Velasco accused Anstead and his co-founder, Daniel Bednarski, of owing him a staggering $2 million, claiming financial misconduct and broken trust. This complaint signaled the start of a cascade of legal troubles. The situation worsened just months later, when another co-owner, Roger N. Behley Jr., also stepped forward with serious allegations. Bailey's filing accused Anstead and Bednarski of mismanaging the company's finances, adding weight to the narrative that Radford's leadership may have played a direct role in its collapse. With multiple partners turning against the founders, Radford Motors shifted from being a bold, high-profile supercar dream to a company drowning in lawsuits and mistrust. What makes this case particularly compelling is the contrast between Radford's vision and its reality. The company was launched with the promise of reviving the storied Radford brand, blending luxury, innovation, and craftsmanship into unique vehicles that catered to elite buyers. Backed by Anstead's public profile and charisma, expectations were high. Yet, behind the polished exterior and glossy promises, mounting debts, partner disputes, and legal battles seemed to have quietly eroded its foundation. Now, with Chapter 7 bankruptcy in motion, Radford's fate hangs by a thread. Will the company dissolve completely, closing a dramatic chapter in Anstead's career, or will there be some unexpected twist to salvage the remains of the dream? For now, all that is certain is that Radford's journey has taken a dramatic and very public detour, one that underscores the risks, rivalries, and realities of building a high-stakes luxury business in today's world. But how did Anstead become so famous in such a short time? Which platform brought him to limelight, and how? Let's find out. The Wheeler Dealers Era. In 2017, life handed Anstead an opportunity many mechanics could only dream of. Wheeler Dealers, one of the most popular car restoration shows in the world, was suddenly in need of a new co-host. The beloved Ed China, who had spent more than a decade on the show, announced his departure. Viewers were shocked, and producers were left with the difficult task of finding someone who could match Ed's rare blend of technical brilliance and on-screen charm. After much consideration, Ant was chosen. For Ant, it was both a huge honor and a heavy responsibility. Ed wasn't just a presenter, he was a legend in the car world. Taking his place felt almost impossible, and as expected, fans weren't ready to embrace change. Social media exploded with criticism the moment Ant appeared on screen. Every gesture, every explanation, every repair he did was compared to Ed's. To many, he was the outsider who had stepped into shoes too big to fill. But Ant refused to back down. He pressed on with determination, believing that respect would come if he poured his heart into the work, one restoration at a time. Over the next 3 years, Ant worked tirelessly to breathe new life into the show. His ability to simplify complex mechanics became his trademark. Engines, transmissions, and gearboxes, things that once seemed intimidating, suddenly felt approachable under his guidance. Fans who stuck around found themselves learning while being entertained. The California workshop, where much of the filming took place, came alive with energy under Ant's leadership. Slowly but surely, Wheeler Dealers grew in popularity across different continents, proving that Ant had indeed carved his place in the show's history. But while everything looked exciting on screen, the reality behind the scenes was far more challenging. The filming schedule was relentless, demanding 10 to 12 hours of hard work every single day, sometimes for weeks on end. On top of that, Ant was juggling other shows such as Anstead Master Mechanic and Celebrity IOU Joyride. It was during the latter that he crossed paths with Hollywood star Renee Zellweger, sparking a romance that quickly caught media attention. Fame and recognition were pouring in, but there was a price Ant was paying quietly. Family time became scarce. His first marriage to Louise Story, the mother of his 2 children, had already ended in 2017. With Ant relocating permanently to the US, the physical distance between him and his kids back in the UK grew even wider. It was a painful reality. While his career flourished, his personal life was becoming increasingly strained. By 2020, another twist came. Production of Wheeler Dealers was moving back to the UK. For many, this would have been the perfect chance to return home and continue the show's legacy. But Ant made a choice that surprised the world. At the peak of his success, he walked away. His reason was simple yet profound. He wanted to remain in California, close to his young son, Hudson. For Ant, fatherhood was more important than fame, ratings, or money. That decision marked the end of one chapter and the beginning of another, one filled with turbulence, challenges, and reinvention. It is obvious that the court case is not the only problem Ant Anstead has faced recently. What else might have happened to him? Let's delve into the details of his relationship issues. Love, loss, and the custody wars. In late 2018, Ant married Christina Hack, a celebrated HGTV star. Their wedding sparkled with media attention, and in September 2019, they welcomed Hudson, their son. For a brief moment, it seemed like a golden family. 2 TV personalities, 1 bright future. By September 2020, the news broke like a thunderclap. Christina shocked the world when she announced that she and Ant were separating. For fans who had watched their whirlwind romance unfold, it seemed sudden and almost unthinkable. But no one was more stunned than Ant himself. Publicly, he admitted with heartbreaking honesty, "I did not initiate the end." Those few words revealed a man who never saw it coming. The aftermath was devastating. Ant spiraled into a dark season of pain. Within weeks, he had dropped 23 pounds, his body reflecting the weight of emotional turmoil he could no longer hide. To cope, he sought help wherever he could. He joined a breakup recovery program, turned to therapy, and even stepped away from the noise of the world in hopes of finding some peace. On social media, his posts were raw and unfiltered. They painted the picture of a man drowning in sorrow, trapped inside a home that once rang with laughter and love, now echoing only silence. But the storm grew even heavier when Christina appeared to move on publicly, while Ant was still visibly struggling in private. The imbalance of their healing journeys created a painful contrast. By April 2022, the situation had spilled from personal heartbreak into the courtroom. Ant took a bold step and filed for full custody of their young son, Hudson. His accusations were serious. He claimed Christina had been negligent, pointing to instances where Hudson was left sunburned, allegedly exposed to COVID-positive individuals, and, most controversially, used as a pawn in social media promotions. The custody battle divided the public. On one side, many praised Ant for standing up as a protective father, determined to shield his son from harm. On the other, Christina's supporters accused him of hypocrisy. They pointed out that Ant himself had featured Hudson in promotions for Radford Motors, his automotive brand. This revelation sparked heated debates online. Was Ant truly fighting for Hudson's best interest, or was he simply retaliating in anger? Tensions escalated further when Ant made a chilling comparison. He linked his son's exposure on social media to the tragic case of Kalia Posey, a teenage reality star whose life ended in self-harm. For some, his words were powerful and necessary, a stark warning about the dangers of thrusting children into the spotlight. For others, it felt extreme and sensational, an argument that crossed delicate boundaries. Finally, after a grueling 12-hour mediation in November 2022, both sides reached an agreement. Joint custody was granted. Christina also consented to stop posting Hudson on social media, a move that quieted some of the noise but couldn't erase the bitterness that had built up along the way. The legal fight had ended, but its emotional scars lingered. For Ant, the battle was never just about legal rights. It was about protecting his role as a father, holding on to his identity, and surviving the unforgiving glare of public judgment. Behind every headline was a man determined not to lose both his child and his sense of purpose, even as the world watched his most private heartbreak unfold. As he found fame in wheeler dealers, Ant Anstead dreamed higher and sought his big dream. What was his dream? Is there anything special about it? Let's dive into the details of a dream that turned into nightmares. Radford Motors. When Ant Anstead walked away from Wheeler Dealers, one of television's most beloved car shows, he knew he was taking a bold risk. He had been the smiling mechanic in millions of homes, but stepping off that stage left a deep question hanging in the air. What comes next? Who am I without the cameras? Ant's answer was Radford Motors, a revival of a once legendary British name that had dazzled car lovers back in the 1960s. Ant didn't walk this road alone. He partnered with designer Mark Stubbs and none other than Formula One champion Jenson Button. Together, they dreamed of building cars that weren't just machines, but moving works of art. Vehicles that carried the timeless elegance of the past, but were powered by the precision of modern engineering. Their shared vision was bold, to reintroduce Radford as the home of handcrafted luxury, where passion for design met cutting-edge performance. In 2020, the dream came alive. With lights flashing and headlines buzzing, they unveiled the Lotus Radford Type 62-2, a car that seemed to roll straight out of a fantasy. Sleek, stylish, and dripping with vintage charm, it was more than a vehicle. It was a statement. Discovery even jumped on board, producing a special series, Radford Returns, to document the journey from vision to reality. For Ant, this wasn't just a company launch. It was redemption. It was proof to the world and to himself that he could thrive beyond television. But dreams are fragile things. What starts with fanfare can quickly slide into chaos. By 2023, the cracks began to show. Customers who had poured their money into Radford complained about endless delays. Dealers quietly withdrew from agreements. Investors who once applauded the venture now demanded explanations. Whispers turned into open frustration. Then came the blow that made headlines. In March 2024, a shareholder filed a lawsuit against Ant and Stubbs, accusing them of fraud and claiming they had failed to repay $2 million. Financial reports, when scrutinized, raised even more eyebrows. Where exactly had the money gone? Some said it was locked up in unfinished prototypes. Others feared it had simply evaporated. By October of that year, Radford Motors had no choice but to file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, a desperate move to buy time and restructure. Ant assured fans that this was a pause, not an ending. He spoke with the same optimism that had once fueled the company's launch, insisting Radford would return stronger. But behind the scenes, the pressure was crushing. By May 2025, the hope collapsed completely. Radford slid into Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Liquidation. The workshop floor was littered with half-finished cars that might never see the road. Parts suppliers lined up demanding payment. Lawsuits named Ant directly, dragging his reputation through the mud. What had started as a dream now stood as a cautionary tale. For Ant, the fall of Radford Motors cut deeper than money. It struck at his very identity. This company had been his answer to life after Wheeler Dealers. Now, with the brand gone and his name entangled in legal battles, that haunting question returned louder than ever. Who am I without it all? What was the making of Ant Anstead like? Who was he before getting to the spotlight? Let's dig into the details of his unlikely beginning. From guns to grease. Before Ant Anstead became the charming and knowledgeable car expert admired on television screens around the world, his life followed a very different path. Long before cameras and glossy car shows, Ant was just a young man in England searching for purpose. At the age of 20, he made a life-changing decision and joined the Hertfordshire Police. What began as a steady job quickly turned into a career filled with challenges that demanded courage, discipline, and razor-sharp instincts. Ant's natural ability and fearless character soon earned him a place on the elite Armed Response Unit, a position reserved only for the most capable officers. It was here that he faced situations most people only watch in action films: armed robberies, dangerous confrontations, and intense hostage standoffs where a wrong move could cost lives. Every day, he was forced to make decisions in split seconds, decisions that carried the weight of life and death. His bravery did not go unnoticed. Twice, he was honored with awards recognizing his courage under fire. To many, Ant seemed destined for a long and decorated career in law enforcement. Yet, beneath the uniform and the hardened exterior of a police officer, Ant carried another identity: a dreamer and a craftsman. Since his teenage years, he had been fascinated by cars, not just as machines but as works of art waiting to be reborn. In fact, as a teenager, he had already built his very first car from scratch and managed to sell it. That passion never left him. Though police work gave him structure and financial stability, it could never ignite the spark in his soul the way cars did. At 26, shocking both his colleagues and even himself, Ant decided to walk away from the security of his police career. He left behind a stable income, the admiration of peers, and a guaranteed future. All he carried with him was his relentless passion and a willingness to start from nothing. With no money and no proper workshop, Ant's story could have ended there. Instead, he struck a deal that would change everything. He restored a run-down barn in exchange for using it as his garage. From that modest, crumbling barn, Ant began his second life. With cheap tools and sheer determination, he threw himself into restoring cars by day. To keep the dream alive, he played semi-professional football by night, using his earnings to fund his work. Over time, his reputation quietly spread across Britain's car community. Ant was not just repairing cars, he was breathing life into them, giving old, forgotten machines a second chance on the road. With more than 700 games of football behind him and countless car restorations completed, he slowly carved a name for himself. His persistence eventually caught the attention of television producers. In 2014, Channel 4's For the Love of Cars introduced Anstead to millions of viewers. Audiences instantly connected with him, not just because of his knowledge, but because of his authenticity and genuine care for every car he touched. This opportunity marked the beginning of his rise to fame, a journey that would lift him into the limelight, and, as later years revealed, pull him into storms he never expected. What kind of background did he have? What were his struggles while growing up? Let's journey into the details of Anstead's early life. His early life. Anstead's journey to success is far from ordinary. Long before he became a familiar face on television and a respected figure in the automotive world, he battled personal struggles that could have easily held him back. One of the greatest challenges he faced early in life was dyslexia. For many children, school is a place of learning and growth, but for Ant, it was often a battleground. Reading and writing did not come naturally to him. Words seemed to jumble together on the page, and tasks that others found simple felt like mountains he had to climb. Yet, rather than allow these obstacles to define his worth, Ant made a conscious choice to take a different route. Instead of focusing on what he couldn't do easily, he leaned into what he could do exceptionally well. He discovered a world where his struggles didn't matter: mechanics. Cars, engines, and machines gave him a language that did not require spelling or grammar. In the garage, he found freedom. Here, his hands and his mind worked in harmony, allowing him to explore creativity and problem-solving without judgment. While school made him feel like an outsider, the mechanical world embraced him. He could take things apart, fix them, and bring them back to life. And this process gave him confidence and a sense of purpose. Dyslexia, though often seen as a limitation, became the very force that shaped his resilience. It pushed him to think differently, to approach problems from unique angles, and to find innovative solutions. This resilience carried over into other parts of his life, fueling the determination that would one day make him stand out, not just as a skilled car builder, but also as a TV presenter admired by millions. But Ant's struggles were not limited to academics. Life tested him in deeply personal ways, too. He lost his father at a young age, a blow that could break even the strongest of spirits. The pain of such loss was immense, yet it taught him invaluable lessons about the fragility of life and the importance of strength. Later, he would also face the heartbreak of a difficult divorce, another chapter filled with emotional challenges. These experiences did not weaken him. Instead, they shaped him into someone who could bend without breaking, adapt when life shifted, and rebuild when everything seemed to fall apart. Through all of this, Ant learned the power of perseverance. He discovered that success is not about avoiding hardships, but about pushing through them. He also came to value the importance of seeking support when needed, recognizing that strength does not always mean standing alone. The untold truth behind Ant Anstead's achievements lies in this blend of hardship and determination. His story is not just about cars or television fame, it's about resilience, creativity, and the human spirit's ability to rise above difficulty. By embracing his struggles instead of running from them, Ant transformed challenges into stepping stones, showing that adversity, when faced with courage, can become the very foundation of greatness. In the midst of the challenges, Anstead seems to have come across a spark of hope. What is that source of hope? How has it been his source of support? Let's dive into the details of his newly found source of stability. Love in the shadows. If Ant Anstead's first marriage represented the innocence of youthful devotion, and his second marriage reflected the overwhelming weight of fame and public expectations, then his relationship with Renee Zellweger carried a completely different tone. It wasn't about proving anything to the world, nor was it about chasing an image. With Renee, Ant seemed to find what had eluded him for years: quiet stability. Their story began in 2021 on the set of Celebrity IOU Joyride. It was an unlikely meeting that grew into something much deeper than either of them could have imagined. Unlike his previous relationships, this one didn't play out in the glare of cameras or through endless social media updates. There were no dramatic public appearances, no exaggerated gestures designed for headlines. Instead, they chose a path that was calm and private, building their bond away from the judgmental noise of the outside world. For nearly a year, they lived quietly, choosing presence over performance and sincerity over spectacle. By 2025, Renee had moved into Ant's San Diego home, where she shared daily life not only with him, but also with his young son, Hudson. For friends and family, this step wasn't just about love. It symbolized trust, acceptance, and genuine commitment. Those close to Ant described Renee as the anchor who grounded him during one of the most turbulent phases of his life. When Radford, Ant's ambitious venture, stumbled and drew criticism, Renee was the one who helped him navigate the emotional fallout. She wasn't simply a partner on paper. She became part of his world in meaningful ways. She showed up quietly behind the scenes of Born Mechanic, offered comfort during Hudson's milestones, and shielded Ant when the weight of media scrutiny threatened to crush his spirit. Her support wasn't loud or performative. It was steady, consistent, and reassuring, the kind of presence that turns chaos into calm. In 2024, Ant gave the world a rare glimpse of his emotions when he shared a heartfelt birthday tribute to Renee. He wrote, "She is the nicest person I know, and the only person who knows me that well." The message was simple, yet deeply revealing. For once, Ant's words didn't sound defensive or burdened by the need to justify his choices. They radiated a kind of peace that suggested he had finally found what he had long been searching for: someone who truly understood him. This relationship stood out not because of public display, but because of what it represented at a deeper level. It wasn't about glamour, pressure, or proving his worth to anyone. It was about healing. With Renee, Ant seemed to discover a softer rhythm to life, a reminder that even after storms that feel endless, there are always calmer seas waiting on the horizon. He found something rare, not just love, but restoration. What are the latest career moves of Ant Anstead? Could his challenges lead him to abandon his car rebuilding career? Let's find out. Rebuilding, one car at a time. By the time 2024 arrived, Ant Anstead had once again changed the course of his life. For years, the world had watched him chase opportunities, some wildly successful, others painfully disastrous. But instead of pursuing more television fame or diving into multi-million-dollar business ventures, he took a quieter, more meaningful path. He decided to return to the very thing that had shaped him in the first place, building with his hands and restoring life to forgotten machines. This decision gave birth to a fresh project called Born Mechanic. Unlike the glamorous car shows filled with celebrity guests or dramatic production, this series stripped everything down to its essence. The concept was deeply personal. Ant devoted himself to restoring a 500-year-old farmhouse in the English countryside, a home he planned to gift his parents for their retirement. What made it even more fascinating was the way he funded the project, through car restorations, the very skill that had carried him from obscurity into recognition years earlier. Born Mechanic wasn't about Hollywood glitz or television ratings. There were no flashy lights, no staged arguments, and no A-list stars dropping by. It was simply Ant, his tools, and his story unfolding in real time. Fans who tuned in found it refreshingly honest. They saw a man covered in grease, pouring himself into both cars and the crumbling farmhouse. And in that, they rediscovered the Ant they had admired from the beginning. It felt raw, authentic, and relatable. Many viewers described it as a full-circle moment, reminding them of the man who once started out in a small barn, armed with nothing but determination and grit. The gamble paid off. Audiences connected with this stripped-down version of Ant, and the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. By 2025, Born Mechanic was renewed for another season, proving that sometimes simplicity resonates more deeply than spectacle. Behind the cameras, however, Ant's journey had not been smooth. His personal life had been tested in ways that nearly broke him. 2 failed marriages had left him scarred, while difficult custody battles drained his energy and tested his resilience as a father. On top of that, financial troubles and public humiliation threatened to overshadow the reputation he had worked so hard to build. Yet, in all these struggles, Ant managed to carve out a new kind of strength. What emerged was a man no longer chasing noise or validation, but choosing peace. His world narrowed into focus. His children, his craft, and the quiet satisfaction of creating something lasting. He found stability not in riches or fame, but in the everyday rhythm of hard work and family. The greater lesson in Ant's story reaches far beyond television. True success, is not about living without failure. It is about falling hard, sometimes publicly, and still choosing to rise again. Just as Ant once rebuilt broken-down cars, giving them new life, he is now patiently rebuilding himself, piece by piece, with the same determination, grit, and care. So, would Ant Anstead come out of all these stronger and greater? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.